More disturbing accusations emerged about Hollywood executive and major Democratic donor Harvey Weinstein. Now, after mounting allegations of sexual harassment, Weinstein was actually fired by his own company. That's good news. Now, while details of what Weinstein is accused of doing are beyond shocking, what is even more disturbing is the fact that for 30 years, this guy has been praised by the left, by liberals, by Hollywood and Democrats. Now, let me explain. The website, Voctiv, they analyzed almost 1,400 Academy Awards acceptance speeches. Harvey Weinstein ranked second for the most thanked person. Now, back in 2012, Meryl Streep even jokingly called Weinstein God, and she is one of only just a handful of celebrities that are now speaking out against Weinstein in the face of these accusations. But where's the widespread outrage, condemnation from Hollywood? I thought they cared about women's rights. Now, if the tables were turned, and this was a conservative in the same situation, Hollywood liberals would be enraged. The media would be enraged. However, since it's one of their own, it's mostly crickets. The silence is deafening. Another example of how Hollywood has ignored this scandal, according to Axios. Look at this. All these late-night comedians, Jimmy Kimmel, Jimmy Fallon, Seth Meyers, James Corden, guess what? They didn't mention it at all during their shows. In Saturday Night Live, the show that ruthlessly mocks President Trump and all conservatives, well, they had jokes written about Weinstein, yet they never made air. And what's worse is that the SNL creator, Lorne Michaels, he tells the Daily Mail that the reason he didn't go after Weinstein is because it's, quote, a New York thing. Really? What Michaels really meant, it's a hypocrisy thing. And you can't forget about attorney Lisa Bloom. Pretty much anytime a woman accuses a conservative of something, she swoops in to represent them with a major press conference to attack conservatives. Big surprise, Bloom was actually advising Weinstein before resigning this weekend. And Bloom made the announcement via Twitter, quote, "I have resigned as an attorney and advisor for Harvey Weinstein. My understanding is that Mr. Weinstein and his board are moving forward and toward an agreement." What does that even mean? Now, you would think, since Bloom is the so-called champion of women's rights, that she would never, ever consider working for Weinstein. Her hypocrisy is stunning, but it's not surprising. Now, the same goes for many Democrats. They took piles of money from Harvey Weinstein, and only now, after these allegations surfaced, some, just a few, not all of them, are beginning to give it back or give it a charity. Look at these statistics. Weinstein donated an estimated $44,000 to Hillary Clinton since 1999, and that's on top of the $15,000 he shelled out to a super PAC tied to Clinton. Weinstein also contributed over $56,000 to the Obama Victory Fund. The Hollywood big shot, he gave over $97,000 to the Democratic National Committee, and he also wrote checks for over $76,000 for the Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee. All told, the Center for Responsive Politics calculates Weinstein contributed over $2 million to Democrats. That's only since the year 2000. Now, some Democrats, they're giving some of the money back, or they're donating it to other liberal causes. They think that cleans their hands. But again, no across-the-board outrage, no disgust. And we can't forget that the two biggest beneficiaries of Weinstein's contributions, Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, they have yet to comment publicly about him. If it was a conservative, you think they might have commented? This is what I was telling you about during the election. Liberals claim to care the most about women's rights. If they did, Hillary Clinton and her family foundation would never have taken money from countries like Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Oman, Kuwait, the UAE. Now, these countries treat women horribly. They kill gays and lesbians, many of them. They persecute Christians and Jews. You can't build a temple or a church in Saudi Arabia. So the left, this is selective moral outrage. They're completely full of it on every single issue that they lecture you that they're morally superior about over Republicans. For example, the Daily Caller reporting that there's a coffee shop owner in Seattle, Washington. We have the videotape of a group of Christian anti-abortion activists get kicked out after a vile tirade, all because the owner couldn't tolerate their presence. Watch this.
There's nothing else you can say.
So,
this is you.
So we're not welcome here.
I do not want these people in this place.
So you're not willing to tolerate our presence?
Extremely offensive. Can you tolerate my presence?
We are.
Right, we're actually in your coffee shop.
Really? If I go get my boyfriend right now, right here, you're going to tolerate that? That would be your choice. Are you going to tolerate it? It's your place. Answer my question. No, you're going to sit right here and watch it.
Well, no, I mean, we don't want to
watch
watch
then
that.
I don't have to tolerate this.
Well, that's true. I mean, you
then
don't.
leave. All of you. Tell all your friends don't come here. Yeah, I like I'm not going to be saved by anything. I Christ in that, okay? He's hot.
Can't hear it? He was talking about anal sex with Jesus Christ, just to offend people. Have you heard anything about this story in the mainstream, left-wing, destroy Trump media? Probably not. You probably didn't even see the tape until right now. And guess what? You probably never will. And here's why. The left, they say they care about religious liberty, especially when it comes to Christians in this country. Well, guess what? Why do I believe if this was another religion, do I suspect there would be widespread outrage, lawsuits, the left would be apoplectic, the media would be covering it 24/7, 365. But in this case, they're Christians. Doesn't seem to matter to them. And then there's this example that the Washington Free Beacon is reporting on. You have a group of students trying to shut down an exam at Berkeley because of the stress that they are enduring and claiming racism. Watch this.
Instead of an exam, we are requesting a take-home essay with significant time to prepare. Our well-beings are being put on the line because of our emotional, mental, and physical stress that this university is compounding with what is already going on our everyday lives. We demand that you make and hold space for to center the voices of students of color.
Are you trying to silence us right now? Is that what you're trying to do?
I'm trying to take my nap. We're going to let the students take you, ma'am. We can walk outside and I can continue the conversation.
I think we're going to cut in. We're going to go to the ethics department and bring this up to them right now.
You are more than welcome to do that.
I don't know why you still like sitting down, y'all. I don't understand. I really don't understand. You can take a test, but people are dying out there.
We now have reached a point of cultural insanity. The left claims they're all for free speech, but look what happens at the so-called home of freedom of speech. And we also cannot forget that conservatives have pretty much been essentially blocked from speaking at UC Berkeley. The left doesn't care about this country's history, doesn't care about its culture. Just look at these videos from earlier today. All the Columbus Day protests. Liberals, they have no problem supporting people defacing, vandalizing our history and statues. You know what? What about what other people think? What about tolerance? It's just like what we saw when leftists were tearing down and removing Confederate monuments. Here it goes even further. Now, the one thing the left does not seem to care about is the NFL. When they disrespect our flag, our country, and the thousands and thousands of Americans that fought, bled, and died fighting under that flag and protesting. They're out there protesting the national anthem. This weekend, the Vice President, Mike Pence, he walked out of yesterday's NFL game following national anthem protests. The Vice President and the Second Lady, Karen Pence, attended the game in Indianapolis, and after a handful of 49ers, refused to honor the flag, Pence and his wife rightly headed for the exits. The vice president later tweeted, quote, "I left today's Colts game because at POTUS, and I will not dignify any event that disrespects our soldiers, our flag, or our national anthem." We have a big debate later in the program. And President Trump took to Twitter writing, quote, "I asked Vice President Pence to leave the stadium if players kneeled, disrespecting our country. I am proud of him and Second Lady Karen." Good for the vice president taking a stand. Americans are sick and tired of seeing these players protesting the flag and not honoring those brave men and women that fought, bled, and died. And by the way, this is a country that gives them an opportunity to make millions of dollars playing a game. NFL owners, they're beginning to start to realize that millions are at stake here, and the American people are fed up for what is now blatantly disrespectful behavior. Dallas Cowboys owner Jerry Jones, he said yesterday that players who protest the national anthem, they're not going to play. And the Miami Dolphins owner, Stephen Ross, he's saying it is incumbent on players to stand and salute the flag of the United States. Finally, it's about time these owners did something, because as Mark Thiessen pointed out a couple of weeks ago, the NFL's game operation manual says All players must be on the sideline for the national anthem. They must stand at attention, face the flag, hold their helmets in their left hand, and refrain from talking or face discipline, such as fines, suspensions, and/or forfeiture of draft choices, first offense. But by the way, you can't do this in the end zone, or you can't twerk, or you can't be offensive to the other team, or you can't gloat in the end zone. A lot of rules restricting freedom of speech. You can't put 9/11 we'll never forget on your cleats, and you can't honor police officers slain in Dallas. Now, of course, after the vice president left the NFL game, the left, the liberal mainstream media, went into full-on freak-out mode. ESPN's Jemele Hill, remember her? She's the liberal host who tweeted that President Trump was a white supremacist. Well, earlier tonight, Hill was suspended by ESPN for 2 weeks after calling for fans to boycott advertisers of the Dallas Cowboys. You know, it's interesting how she got suspended for that, not for attacking the President of the United States. Here's the bottom line tonight. This country is divided culturally because the left is hypocritical and inconsistent. They only feign phony moral outrage, but only when it suits their political agenda. They only care about, they're only outraged over conservative scandals, not liberal ones. And they pretend to have the moral authority on issues like race, women's rights, gay rights, and the list goes on and on. The truth is this. The left has been lying about all of that for a long time. And this Harvey Weinstein scandal proves all of it. For the right price, the left and their